Hello everyone, this is Shahid. I am your lab instructor for MECE2310 U Concurrent Engineering and Design course. In this instructional video, I will walk you through your Lab 1A, which is 2D and 3D modeling with multibodies using SolidWorks. Before proceeding with anything, a couple of things that I will go over. For this lab, or all the labs associated with the MECE2310U, please create a folder on your desktop or wherever you want. I will highly recommend you to use your Google Drive, so that will help us to share your files when myself or a TA is helping you to complete these labs. So to begin, the first thing that you should do is basically create a folder. I am just going to put it on my desktop here. Call it Mackie 2310U Labs and put your student ID, uh, whatever that student ID might be. So moving forward, all the lab exercises you should be completing in this folder. And this will ensure that whatever you're uploading it on Canvas or whenever you're seeking help from a TA or from myself, we can easily access this folder and we can have a look at what issues you're encountering during the laboratories. So the first thing first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder inside this folder, and I'm basically going to call it lab 1A. Again, same convention, all the components you will be saving them with your student ID inside this folder as well. So I have just created this folder. I have now two folders in here. So this is the folder that you should be working for these lab exercises. So now let's have a look at what you're expected to do this in this lab. So the objective of this lab exercise is to design this hand press. The hand press consists of four components. One is handle, the second one is pin, the third one is basically this base frame, and the fourth component is this cylindrical rod. Um, from the functional point of view, the way this hand press is supposed to work is when this handle rotates into the counterclockwise direction, it will engage this cylindrical rod and it will push it down to produce some sort of compression operation. If you recall from ENGR 1025U, normally when this type of system you will design in SolidWorks, you will create individual components into part modeling environment. And after completing individual components, you will assemble them in the assembly environment. In this lab exercise, we're introducing you to a different technique of creating your assemblies. This lab exercise will continue on in your lab 1B. That's where you will create the assembly. In this lab exercise individually, what you're doing is you're designing and modeling the entire system into part modeling environment. You will be utilizing multi-bodies, which is available in SolidWorks, which is really powerful tool, which helps in the design process, especially when you are downloading some component CAD models from online from different vendors and so on and so forth. And then you can use the technique that we're going to teach you in this lab exercise and the lab 1B that will help you to speed up the design process. So I'm just going to demonstrate quickly that this lab 1A hand press I have created using multi-bodies. So if I try to rotate this handle, it does not rotate. This is due to the fact this is a part modeling environment. So in the part modeling environment, the assembly or your design does not move around as it does in the assembly environment. We will go over a bit more in details in the next lab exercise, when we will convert this into the assembly. So before starting the lab exercise, I will quickly go over your lab manual and how to actually approach these lab exercises. The lab exercises, the way they're designed is we have given you step-by-step instructions. So you could follow them step by step. And if you're stuck somewhere, you could watch the instructional videos. You can pause, play, and then complete your lab exercises. Um, However, I will highly encourage you to basically go browse through the next few pages in the lab manual ahead of time before starting, and then just look at the sketches, the features, and other things ahead of time, and then just try to create those without reading the step-by-step instructions. And that way you can complete these labs an efficient manner. If you're stuck somewhere, look at the step, what you're supposed to do in details, and if you still can't get it done, then look at the instructional video. So to start the lab exercise, I'm going to open up the a new file, and I'm going to select this part, and I'm going to click OK. First thing first, we're going to set the units. To do so, you could simply go on the lower right corner here, set your units as mmgs, which is millimeter gram and second. Second way, if you want to do set your units in a different way, you could simply go to edit documents. If you wanted to add other properties, you could do it in there. You can also access the same dialog box by clicking on this options icon. It takes you to the system options, and then you can set your document properties there. So first thing first, after that, you want to save this file into your work folder for your lab 1A with your student ID. The part you could name it as with your lab 1A student ID, and you could call it hand press, for example, or you can name it whatever you want to call it. But the two information should be always there in your for all your components, for all your assemblies, so on and so forth. I'm gonna click save. To start my CAD model, I'm gonna click on this right plane, and from there I'm gonna select this normal to, so that I am looking normal to my top plane. To start, I'm gonna create a sketch by going to Sketch tab, and from the Command Manager, I'm gonna click on this sketch icon, and I'm gonna click on this corner rectangle, and I'm gonna click somewhere there, and I'm gonna drag it out, and I'm gonna finish the rectangle, and I'm gonna add another rectangle which will be coincident with this vertical line by clicking there, and I'm gonna drag it in this direction. The next step, I'm gonna trim this line that I don't need. There's number of methods that you could use to trim that. I'm gonna select power trim, and I'm gonna simply click here and drag my mouse over that vertical line that I want to trim. So I have trimmed that line. Now I'm gonna add the dimensions to fully define this sketch. To do so, I'm gonna go to this smart dimension icon, click on it, and I'm gonna start adding the dimensions which are specified in figure 8 of your lab manual. So I'm gonna set this one as 80 millimeters. I'm gonna set this one as 140 millimeters. I'm gonna set this one, oops, I'm gonna set this one as, for some reason it's just picking up the midpoint. Something is going on. I'm just gonna escape, and I'm gonna click on the smart dimension again, and I'm gonna select that horizontal line, and I'm gonna add the dimension as 70 millimeters. And then the next dimension I'm gonna add is this vertical line, which is supposed to be 40 millimeters. And I'm just gonna press my F key on my keyboard so I can zoom in, and so you can see the dimensions a bit better. So the next dimension, I'm going to go back to the smart dimension icon. I'm going to select this this horizontal line, and I'm going to click on this origin. And I'm going to add this dimension as 20 millimeters. When you are creating this, please make sure all your dimensions are consistent with your lab manual. The next dimension, what I'm going to add here is I'm going to enter the dimension between this origin and this horizontal line as 40 millimeters. And from the origin to this vertical line, the dimension is 35 millimeters, and this is the last dimension that fully defines your sketch. So I'm going to click OK on the dimensions, and I'm going to go to Features tab, and the next step I'm going to create the feature, which is an extrusion basically. I'm going to click on this extruded boss base, and I'm going to extrude it by 25 millimeters. So once that's done, I'm going to select on this top face, and I'm going to right click on it and select normal to. So now I have selected this face. I'm going to create another sketch on it. And the sketch I'm going to create on this face is specified in your step 9. It's basically a rectangle. I'm going to drag and drop there, so that I'm gonna add the dimensions to specify the position. So between this edge and this vertical line, the distance is 12 millimeters from top horizontal between these two this horizontal edge, this horizontal line. The dimension is 50. Sorry, it's 12.5 millimeters, and the dimension here is for this horizontal line 56 millimeters, and this dimension for this vertical line is 55 millimeters. So this basically fully defines the sketch. The next step is I'm going to click on these features, and I'm going to add the extrusion. So I'm just rotating this model so you can view it a little bit better. And I'm going to click on this extruded boss base icon, and I'm going to add the depth for this extrusion as 50, and I'm going to click OK. So this is done. For the next step, I'm going to select this front plane, and I'm going to look normal to it, and I'm going to click to Sketch tab, and I'm going to add a sketch there. And the sketch that needs to be added on this front plane is shown in figure 13 of your lab manual. To do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this line tool. I'm going to expand it, and I'm going to select this center line, and I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to select this edge, and I'm going to draw a vertical line, and I'm going to click on Smart Dimensions, and I'm going to set this dimension as 125 millimeters. And the next thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this arc, basically 3-point arc. I'm going to click on this point. I'm going to click on this vertex there, and I'm going to drop it somewhere there. And I'm going to add the dimension for this arc as 360 millimeters. So that this is kind of defined. And I'm going to go back to this line icon again, and I'm going to click here, and I'm going to draw horizontal line there, and I'm going to come down somewhere there, and then I'm going to change this one to center line, and I'm going to move it down somewhere there, and I'm going to escape, and I'm going to start adding some dimensions. This dimension I'm going to add is 30 millimeters. This escape. This dimension I'm going to add is 20 millimeters. I'm gonna just move this out of the way so it's easier to visualize. And I'm gonna add an arc. Again, I'm gonna use 3-point arc. I'm gonna go somewhere there, and I'm gonna catch so that this is kind of coincident. I'm gonna drop something there. I'm gonna click OK, and I'm gonna add the smart dimension for this one as 20. So this is done, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a relationship between this center of this arc and this center line. I'm going to hold my control key, select. Oops, I don't need to be in the smart dimension. I'm going to basically move this out of the way so you can see what I'm selecting. I'm selecting the center point of this arc. I'm pressing control key and holding it down, and I'm selecting this vertical line, and I'm making them coincident. So this way there is a relation there. And the next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a vertical line, and I'm going to drop it there, move my dimensions out a bit, and I'm going to add the dimension for this one as well. And this dimension is supposed to be 30 millimeters. And the next, I'm going to add the second arc. I'm going to basically use the 3-point arc again. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to come drop it somewhere there, which is coincident with this. And I'm going to basically drop it there. So now I'm just basically going to verify if I have a relationship there or not, and I'm going to hold. I'm going to select the center point, but I don't see any existing relations. So I'm going to add the relation by pressing and holding my control key and selecting this vertical line, and I'm going to make them coincident. Okay, so now I know where how this arc is positioned. In here, the dimension is 20 millimeters. Okay, now I'm going to add another line, a vertical line. To do so, I'm going to click on this line icon. I'm going to click here, and I'm going to move down, and I'm going to specify this dimension as 20. And then I'm going to add another line from there to there, and then I'm basically going to close the sketch. And I'm going to click OK. So this is the sketch profile that is specified in Figure 13, and I'm going to create the extrusion. To do so, I'm going to just exit the sketch so you can have a look at it, how it looks. I'm going to click on Features tab. I'm going to click on this extruded boss icon, and I'm going to select this sketch icon. In here, for the direction, I'm going to select midplane, and the dimension for the depth is 24 millimeters, and I'm going to click OK. So this is created. In the next step, I'm going to create 2 pockets on the other side. So to do so, I'm going to select on this face, and I'm going to click on this sketch, and I'm going to click on sketch icon, and I'm going to click on this convert entities icon, which basically is going to copy all the features on that sketch profile. It's going to convert. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this offset entities, and I'm going to select these sketch profile, which is created with the convert entities tool. And the dimension, I want to bring it towards inside. I could just click it in here to move it this way, but I'm going to select here so you can easily see. And the parameter, the distance, for the offset is 6 millimeters. So after this sketch profile is created, go to features, click on, we're gonna make a cut. So from features, command manager, click on extruded cut. Select the sketch profile, but we only want to remove material inside this sketch contour. To achieve that, what we're going to do is click on select this selected contours, expand it, and then only select the inside contour. And under the depth parameter, specify 6 millimeters, and I'm going to click OK. So this basically going to create has this pocket, and now I'm going to copy this pocket on the other side. To do that, I'm going to mirror it. To mirror it, I'm going to go to this linear pattern um, uh, drop down menu there, and I'm going to select mirror icon from there. As far as the mirror face is concerned, I'm going to go and select front plane because we want to copy this pocket on the other side. For the features to mirror, I'm going to simply select this cut extrude. I could have just selected from there as well. So that's the preview. I'm going to click OK. So this has been added now. In this step, I will add draft on both sides, which basically will taper these faces along this face along this direction, and will taper this face on this direction. To achieve that, I'm going to go to Features tab, and from the Command Manager, I'm going to click on this draft icon. And for neutral plane, I'm going to select this face. For the faces to draft, I'm going to select this face, and I'm going to select the face on the other side, and I'm going to click OK. So basically, as you can notice, this has tapered those faces from this plane, and it's going down that way. So in the next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this face, and I'm going to click my space bar. I'm going to select normal view to that. And I'm going to click on sketch, and I'm going to select this face. And I'm going to add a sketch there. In the sketch, I'm going to go to the sketch tab, and I'm going to select a circle, and I'm just simply going to line it up, and I'm going to drop it somewhere there. The dimension for this, the diameter for this circle is 36 millimeters. I'm going to specify that. And to position this one properly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a center line. I'm going to click on center line. I'm going to go to this origin. I'm going to draw this horizontal line until I catch the center point. Now I'm going to add the dimension to position this circle with respect to this edge. To do that, I'm going to click on Smart Dimension. I'm going to select this center point, and I'm going to select this edge. And this dimension that I want to specify is 9 millimeters. If you look at your figure 22 in your lab manual, this is supposed to be the center point is supposed to be positioned on the other side. So I'm going to click on this, reverse the direction. I'm going to click OK. So this basically has defined the circle, and the sketch is fully defined. I'm going to go to Feature tab to add an extrusion. And the direction of the extrusion, I'm going to reverse it by clicking on this. And the parameters for the depth, I'm going to specify as 20 millimeters. So this is done. Now I'm going to use this sketch to create the same cylindrical component at the bottom. To do that, I'm going to select the sketch, and I'm going to go to Feature tab, and I'm going to click on Extruded Boss Base. And in this step, I'm going to use the method as offset method. And that I'm going to select this under this from in this dialog box. I'm going to set this as offset. And the offset distance, I'm going to specify it's 90 millimeters, but my direction is incorrect. So I'm going to click it this way. And under this blind, I'm going to move it down as well. And I'm going to set this one as 20 millimeters. And I'm going to click OK. In the next step, I'm going to select this top face and I'm going to look at normal to it. Once that's done, I'm going to add a rectangle on that face. I'm just going to drop anything without any specifications. And I'm going to add the dimensions. From the center, from the origin point to this, the dimension that is set in your figure 25 is 71. And this one is 36, and this is 36 as well. And from center, the origin to this distance is set as 18. So the sketch is fully defined, and I'm gonna click on Feature tab and extrude it, and the depth for that one is set as 20 millimeters. But I'm gonna change the view so you can see the impact. So the direction is on the wrong side, so I'm gonna change the direction. So that's done. Now select this face. Again, right click. I just wanna look normal to it. And I'm gonna add the other two tab sketches here, which is basically two rectangles. I'm gonna grab this point and I'm gonna come somewhere there, and same thing on this side as well. And I'm gonna add the dimensions, which is 10. This dimension is 10, and I'm just gonna make sure that this is 36. And 36. Okay, so I'm gonna change the view orientation so we can see when we do the extrusion that you can see the preview. Okay, and I'm gonna go to the Feature tab and I'm gonna use Extrude Boss, and it's supposed to be, the depth is supposed to be 40 millimeters. So that's done. The next step, I'm gonna use Hole Wizard to add a hole. To add the hole, I'm gonna click on Hole Wizard, and I'm selecting this hole type, and standard I'm specifying as Dean, and then the type is set as drill sizes, and the hole specification, the diameter is set as 22. This is a drop down dialog, so you can add it there. So I'm gonna click on the position, I'm gonna select this face, and I'm gonna try to catch this one, and as soon as I am right in the middle, I'm gonna click on it, and I'm doing, it is cutting the face, that's fine. In here I will specify the end condition as blind, and I will go, let's say 130. Yeah, that will cut through, that's enough. So I'm just going to specify that. So the hole has been added there. I'm going to add one hole there as well, which will go through these both tabs. So I'm going to go back to the hole wizard, and the same specification, The only thing that I will change here is the drill size, which is 14 millimeters, and the method I'm gonna change to through all, and I'm gonna select the position here, and as soon as I have added that, I'm gonna add the smart dimensions and to position these holes. And which is from here to here is 18, and from here to here it's 18. I'm okay with that and click OK. And so as you can see, the hole has been two holes have been added in one step. Now I will create a cylinder. To do so, I'm going to select this face and I'm going to click on the sketch, and I'm going to look normal to it. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the sketch bar and I'm going to click on convert entities, and I'm going to select this and right click. So I have created a circle there. Now I'm going to extrude that circle. And with this one I'm going to use two directions. One is on the top side and the other one I'm going to go downwards. And I'm going to uncheck this merge result because it's the rod. It's not supposed to be part of your base frame, so make sure it's unselected. And for direction 2, and the overall length for this rod is 170 millimeters. So I'm going to specify 130 here. And so it's done. So once I have added this, one thing that you should go to your feature manager here, you should notice there are now two solid bodies. One is this one and one is that one. If I had not done the unselected the merge result, it would have been just one solid body. Now I will create the handle. To do so, I'm going to select the front plane and I'm going to click on the sketch tab and then click on this sketch, and I'm going to press space bar key and I'm going to select normal too. I'm going to go to the sketch tab and I'm going to click on this convert entities and I'm going to select this edge and right click. So it has created the circle on the front plane. Now I'm gonna add another circle here, and the diameter for that one I will set as radius, I will set as 15. I'm gonna draw an arc. I will grab some point here, we'll drop it in here, and I will stop right there. And I'm gonna draw another arc and I will stop somewhere there. I'm gonna draw one arc from here and I'm gonna stop somewhere here. Now I'm gonna add some dimensions before proceeding any further. The first dimension I'm going to add is between this point and the center of this circle, and I'm going to set as 30. And I'm between this point and this, I'm going to set this one as 30 millimeters as well. And this radius I'm going to set at 65. This radius I'm going to set as 14. This radius I'm gonna set as 350, and
this diameter I'm gonna set as 30 for now. I will delete that one later, and I'm gonna trim this intersecting curve which I don't need. I'm gonna use power trim. I'm gonna hold down my left button of my mouse and I'm gonna drag it down till I touch it. So it's been deleted, and I will delete this dimension. I'll just try to be consistent with the figure 36, and I will add dimension like that. There's no difference, but just want to be consistent. Now I'm gonna draw a line from this point and I'm gonna go somewhere there, and I'm gonna add a dimension for that. That's around 200, and I'm gonna add an arc from between these 2 points, and I'm gonna stop there, and I'm gonna add the dimension for that one as 15, and I'm gonna add a circle selecting this center point, and I'm gonna add the dimension for this one as 15. So the next, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add some tangency relationships between these curves that I have just created. To do so, I'm gonna hold on my control key and I'm gonna select this arc and this arc. Oops, something, I have extra things selected. So this arc and this arc, I want to make them oops, it's over defining, so I'm just gonna delete this one. Let's try this one and this one. Make them tangent with each other. Click OK. I'm gonna make this and this tangent to each other. That's all right. Let's try this and this. They're tangent to each other. Okay, between this and this, let's make them tangent. All right. I'm gonna make this tangent with each other, this one and this one, make them tangent. So I have pretty much created the profile sketch. Please note this sketch is not fully defined. If we were dealing with assembly, I will highly encourage you to fully define your sketch, but it's not a requirement for this one because it's part of the same part modeling environment. But if you want to add more relationships and then fully define it, I highly encourage you. But let's see if I can do the extrusion now. I'm gonna click on that and I'm gonna change my view orientation to isometric so you can see the 3D view. For the method for extrusion, I'm gonna select as mid-plane and the depth is 15 millimeters. Since we want to create this handle as a separate body, to do so, please make sure to unselect this merge result dialog box. Once this is unselected, click OK. So the handle has been created. Now I'm going to create a cylinder here. Basically 2 cylinders which will be placed on this face. To do so, I'm going to click on sketch. I'm going to select this plane and I'm going to click on this offset entities and I'm going to select this edge and I'm going to specify the parameter for offset entities as 4 millimeters. As you can see, a circle directly underneath, which is lined up to the center axis of this cylinder or rod, has been created, and I'm going to click OK, and I'm going to extrude it using the extrude command. And basically the height of that extrusion is 12 millimeters. And now I'm gonna create another cylinder on top of this face. So I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna say sketch and click offset entities. I'm gonna select this again. In this instance, I'm gonna specify the offset entities as 4 millimeters again. Actually, I won't do it this way. I will do it differently. I'm gonna click on offset entities and I'm gonna select this, and I'm gonna reverse the direction and I'm gonna go that way 4 millimeters. And I'm gonna do the another extrusion, and the height of that extrusion is 8 millimeters. So that's done. And now I'm going to add a pen through these two holes. To do so, I'm going to add a sketch, and I'm going to sketch on this face, and I'm going to basically do is convert entities. I'm going to select this edge and click OK. So a circle has been created, and I'm gonna add an extrusion. In this extrusion, I'm gonna use the method basically from I'm gonna specify offset, and in here I'm gonna specify 2 millimeters because we want the pin to be coming this direction as well, and in the other direction I wanna go to 40 millimeters, and I'm gonna change the direction the other way, and I'm gonna unselect this merge results because we don't want we want this to be a separate body as well. So this is done. A pin has been added. So the last step to complete the last few steps I'm gonna follow here is basically I'm gonna add an arm between these two components here, and to do so I'm gonna do a sketch on front plane, and I'm gonna look normal to it. So basically I'm gonna add a sketch which is shown on figure 44. I'm gonna slightly deviate from the lab manual for this step because it's a circular profile. I need to don't need to draw a circle on this face here. So I'm gonna click on sketch, I'm gonna draw a line, I'm gonna try to catch this point, and I'm gonna come down and let's add the dimension 65, and I'm gonna add an arc. I'm gonna zoom in. I want to add a tangent arc. I'm gonna go somewhere here. Escape. Let's I'm gonna drag this to line up here. The next thing is basically a straight line which goes in here and I'm gonna add the dimension to that, which is 5 millimeters. Oops, 5 millimeters. And now I'm done with the sketch. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use a sweep feature. Since I need a circular profile, so all I can do is just select the circular profile in here. The diameter for that one I'm gonna set as 20 millimeters, which is taking this dimension from figure 43. And as for the path, or the profile which it needs to follow, I'm gonna select this and I'm gonna right click on it. So your model is almost complete. The only thing that's left to do is to add few rounding features, like we will be adding some fillets. Now I'm gonna do that. The rule of thumb for adding fillet is normally you want to add the bigger fillets first. So I'm gonna go to this fillet feature. I'm gonna select this edge, and the fillet size for this one I'm gonna specify is 20 millimeters. The next fillet I'm gonna add is gonna be clicking on the fillet. I'm gonna select this edge, and I'm gonna rotate my model. Select this, select that, and the size for that fillet is 18 millimeters. And click OK. So that fillet's been added. In the next step, I'm gonna add a few more fillets. Gonna click on the fillet icon, just like this. Select this edge. Select this edge. I'm gonna rotate my model so you can see it better. Select this, select. Okay, yeah, because the size is different, so I'm gonna specify the size as 10. I'm gonna select this one. Select this edge, select this edge, and I'm gonna select this. Click OK. So this is done. Now I'm gonna add the last fillets, couple of fillets that we need. The next fillet size that I need to specify, it is 6 millimeters. For this one, I'm gonna select this and click OK.
So this completes your Lab 1A exercise. Please ensure to save this file. You will need this file for your Lab 1B exercise. If you review your part model, if you go into your features manager and you click on the solid bodies, you will notice 3 or 4 bodies depending on where you unchecked your merge box when you created the extrusions. We will use these components, individual component bodies, to create the full assembly in your Lab 1B. Thank you very much for watching this video.